Hello guys, welcome back. I'm Yami Yuda, and today I'll be presenting to you Pierre Bourdieu and forms of capital. And among philosophers, and sociologists and social scientists, Bourdieu is one of the best for me, at least for me, and that really influenced the way I think of the world. Uh, about life and so on. And today I'll be presenting to you Pierre Bourdieu and forms of capital. But first, before I continue, don't forget, if you like this video, if you like this presentation, like. If you like to comment, give comment or suggestion, and let us try to see if we could grant your request. Comment, then subscribe and click the notification bell. Imagine it will take me 5 years and 5 months if I have only 19 subscribers in each month. So help me, guys. Now I have around 300 subscribers. Maybe I could shorten that into a year or two to have 1,000 subscribers. But the more you subscribe, the more you like and comment, I'll be more happy and I can produce more videos for your consumption. So let's go. For Pierre Bourdieu, by the way, this is a book chapter in the book Handbook of Theory of Research for Sociology of Education, pages 241 to 258, edited by G.F. Richardson. Bourdieu, in this chapter, defined capital as an accumulated labor, So it requires, time. Previously we have discussions on social capital when the capital is transformed to other forms of capital. It requires time and labor, and in this case Bourdieu defined capital as an accumulated labor. Thus it requires time, because when you accumulate something, it requires really time to do so, from a very small amount up to a sufficient or even a surplus amount of capital. And accordingly to Bourdieu, there are four kinds of capital: economic capital, social capital, cultural, and symbolic capitals. And economic capital for Bourdieu is one of the most obvious, the most tangible forms of capital. He defined it that it is immediately and directly convertible into money and may be institutionalized in the form of property rights. Remember this: economic capital are those capital that can be easily transformed or immediately directly convertible into money. Example is the paper bills that we have, the coins that we have, the one that the paper bills that is produced by the central bank, and the one that we use daily, the one which is in the thing also inside our bank accounts, our ATMs. Those are economic capital. And of course we have commodities, we have gold, we have platinum, stocks, bonds, and all of these are known as economic capital because they are directly and could be convertible into money. And they institutionalize it. This capital is institutionalized in the form of property rights. So, for example, if you have owned a commodity, a piece of gold, or even a jewelry, you have some proof of ownership that you really own these forms. And for Bourdieu, this can be institutionalized, the economic capital, in a form of property rights, and sometimes is in the form of certificates or bonds, or in the case of bonds, it will be in coupons. So economic capital really, our number one characteristics is it is easily convertible to money. At the same time, it is, can be proven, the ownership can be proven through property rights, institutionalized in that way. And the next one is cultural capital. For Bourdieu, this kind of capital is convertible into some conditions into economic capital. Yeah, it seems that if you try to read Bourdieu, economic capital is the bottom line of all types of capital. All forms of capital will really go down to something economic. And here, Bourdieu expressed it in his definitions of this form of capital. So convertible into some conditions into economic capital and may be institutionalized in the form of educational qualifications. And if you have qualifications in the much more in the Philippines, if you have educational qualifications, then people will give you a good job. You can have good pay. So those are conditions. Okay, so your qualifications will match with a particular kind of job, and every job could have some salary grade equivalent to it, and that is what it means by conditions. That you can convert, excuse me, that you can convert your cultural capital as institutionalized into your educational qualification or expressed into your educational qualification, so you can convert it into economic capital in the form of salary. So the higher your educational qualification could mean also a good pay in industries, in corporations. Next is social capital. By the way, these are just introductions. We will have more on the discussion of these topics. Again, we started with social capital, so now we have. I thought to give you, how these forms of other forms of capital may look like when I try to describe them and define them. So number three is social capital. So it is made up of social obligations, or for us, connections or relationships. Don't you know that relationships are capital? That's why those who are planning to divorce their wife or their husbands, you better think twice, because a relationship could mean capital. And there are research shows that those people who experience so much divorce are economically weak compared to those who do not have experience a broken relationship. So yeah, because if once you have some divorce or separations between husband and wife, you will have to divide your wealth. Thus your wealth diminishes into half or even more if you have children. But if you remain married throughout your life, you still consolidated your wealth, and then you can even improve it instead of dividing. So again, my advice to you, as much as possible, do not break any relationships. So made up of social obligations and or connections, which is convertible into certain conditions into economic capital, and maybe institutionalized in the form of a title or nobility. Yeah, when you have so much connections, like politicians, you can convert this into some positions. You can run for any government office if you have so much followers. This is the case in the case of the times of the kings and queens, empires. Those who have so much followers, they can convert this into becoming a chieftain in a village, or a king in a particular kingdom, or a tribe leader in a particular tribe. So social capital could be converted into some forms of titles, and these are symbolic forms of capital. The next one is the symbolic capital. Symbolic capital is, it could be whatever form. Either it could be economic, uh, social capital, or cultural capital, as it is represented, apprehended symbolically in a relationship of knowledge, or more precisely, recognition or misrecognition, presupposes the intervention of habitus as a socially constituted cognitive capacity. The term habitus, as I tried to understand, Bourdieu expresses it that habitus are, is the way you think, which are formed socially. It's how I understood habitus, that you know the way, the pattern of thinking, or yeah, the pattern of thinking, the way I think. Others said the culture that we have, that is socially, socially motivated or socially formed, are basically, those are the habitus, the one that the kind of the thing, the thoughts that you have, the thinking that you have now, the kind of ideas, knowledge that you have now, the habits, your behavior right now, are which are formed socially, are basically uh, the habitus. And and symbolic capital are whatever forms of capital which is understood symbolically in relationship to a particular knowledge. Either there is recognition or misrecognition, and presupposes the intervention of our habitus. Yeah. So if we think that being a king is powerful, or being a chieftain is powerful, that is social, or that is will be our habitus, it was formed as part of our fundamental belief or knowledge as a result of our social interaction, thus it becomes our habitus. If we believe that some forms of nobility are could connote power, then that will be, we are really, labeling that form of capital symbolically. Yeah. So there are capital that we can see as like an economic capital, or it looks like a symbolic, I mean social capital or cultural capital, but actually we are symbolically, we symbolically thought about it in relationship to our knowledge, um, as as been guided by our habitus. Like for example, being cum laude, that is a title, but to us, being cum laude or with Latin honors are really, intelligent. They are really smart guys who have these honors. But and that could be symbolic capital. Yeah, symbolically we understood that way, and that at the same time could be cultural capital. So symbolic capital is not as that popular with Bourdieu, but Bourdieu tries to express, to describe, and explain this type of capital. But if you try to read the books of Bourdieu, most of his focus is on social, cultural, and on economic aspects. But my I would like to explore further on this side of capital, the symbolic aspect, because it originates, for me, it originates within in our habitus, the way we think, our disposition, which is sociologically formed throughout our historical being. So again, we will have more for this. We will not talk much about each of these capitals, but I will have to discuss individually all of these capitals. So first, we have already discussed the sociological theory. I mean, no, the social capital theory. So yeah, you can visit and see the videos that I uploaded recently about social capital theory. And thank you for being with us. And Ayudan, like, comment, and subscribe, and click the notification bell, and gives your suggestions for the next time of our presentations. Thank you, and bye.